So today's video is going to focus on metric conversions, which means we're going to go from one metric prefix to another. The first thing I need you to do is take out your green unit organizer sheet. In slot 11, you're going to write metric conversion notes. It's going to be worth no score. In slot 12, you're going to write IP for independent practice, metric conversions. It's going to be worth 15 points. The next thing I need you to do is to find the page in your binder that looks like this and put an 11 in the upper right hand corner. So in order to do metric conversions, we need to focus on the metric prefix chart we learned last week in class. So we can remember the order of that by telling ourselves a story about how King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So say, for example, we needed to move from one base unit over here to another base unit over here. So if we move to a unit on the right-hand side, that means we're moving to a smaller unit on the prefix chart. If we do that, we're going to multiply it by 10 for every step, or move the decimal point one spot to the right for every step we take. So, for example, say we wanted to convert 2 meters to millimeters. That means we're going from our base unit to milli. So we're going to start here at our base unit and go 1, 2, 3 steps to the right to get to milli. And I'm going to write myself a note next to this. So I'm going to say we moved 3 spots to the right. That was the hardest part right there, is figuring out how many spots to move the decimal point. So I'm going to rewrite my number, my 2 meters, and I'm not seeing a decimal point. But I have to remember that if I need a decimal point, it's always going to go after the whole number. So in this case, it's going to go right after the number 2. So because I moved from, in order to go from base to milli, I moved 1, 2, 3 spots to the right, and then I wrote myself a note, I need to move this decimal point 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. So 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. So that means 2 meters, what we start with, becomes 2,000 millimeters. Now, say I need to move to a unit on the left side, which means I'm moving to a larger unit on the prefix chart. If we do that, we're going to divide by 10 for every step, or an easier way is to move the decimal point one spot to the left for every step. So for example, if we convert 5 decagrams to hectograms, that means we're going from deca to hecto. So going back up to my metric prefix chart, I'm going to start here and end here. So I'm moving over 1 spot to the left. And I'm going to write myself a note that I'm moving 1 spot to the left. Because I've now done the hardest part, I'm ready to start doing the actual moving of the decimal point. I'm going to write my number, and I don't see a decimal point, so I need to put it after the whole number, which in this case is a number 5. I need to move the decimal place 1 spot to the left. So 5 decagrams is 0.5 hectograms. So for guided practice, and for ease's sake, so I don't have to switch in between slides, I'm going to rewrite the metric prefixes up here. I'm going to do the first 5 with you, and then you need to do the last 5 by yourselves. So for our first problem, we want to go from 1 centimeter and turn it into meters. So looking at my metric prefix chart, that means I'd have to go from centimeters to meters, and I would move 1 spot over to the right. So I'm going to make myself a note that I'm moving 1 spot to the right. Now, because I've done the hardest part, I'm going to write down my number and put my decimal point after the whole number, which is 1, and then move that decimal point over 1 spot to the right. In this empty spot, I'm going to put a 0. So 1 centimeter, which is what we had here before we moved the decimal, now becomes 10 millimeters. In order to turn 1 kilometer into meters, we're going to start at kilo and move to meters, which is our base unit. So we're going to move over 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. I'm going to make myself a note next there. So 3 spots to the right. And once I do that, I'm going to take however many kilometers I have, so 1 kilometer, and I need to put my decimal point after the whole number. And then I'm going to move that decimal point over 3 spots to the right. So 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. And put zeros in those empty spaces. So 1 kilometer becomes 1,000 meters. In our third problem, we have 25 millimeters equals how many centimeters? In order to stop making it really confusing, I'm going to change the color of ink to red for problems 3 and 4. So, I'm going from my milli prefix to my centi prefix. So I'm going from milli to centi. That's going 1 spot to the left. So now that I've done my hardest part, I'm going to take my number of millimeters and put my decimal point after the whole number. And I'm going to move that decimal point 1 spot to the left. So 25 millimeters becomes 2.5 centimeters. For number 4, I start with 250 meters. I need to convert it to centimeters. So I'm going from my base unit to my centi prefix. So I'm going to go from base unit over 1 spot, over 2 spots to centi. So I moved over 2 spots to the right to go from my base unit of meter to centimeters. So now that I did that, I'm going to take the number of meters I have and put a decimal point at the end of it because it's a whole number. Then I'm going to move that decimal point 2 spots over to the right because that's how many spots I moved it 2 spots to the right on the metric prefix chart. I'm going to put 2 zeros in those 2 empty spots. So 250 meters becomes 25,000 centimeters. For the last problem, I'm going to change the ink to blue. For number 5, we're going to start at 5,000 millimeters. We need to figure out how many decimeters for that little d. So we need to figure out how many millimeters is in decimeters. So we're going to start at milli and move over 2 spots to the left. So 2 to the left. Now after I've figured out how many spots I need to move my decimal point and in what direction, I'm going to write down the number of millimeters I had. So I had 5,000, and then I need to put my decimal point at the end because it's a whole number. And because I need to convert it to decimeters, I need to move it over 2 spots to the left. So 5,000 millimeters becomes 50 decimeters. What I need you to do is to try these 5 problems on your own, and then if you're still in class, you should double check your answers in the front of the room. If you're not in class, you should text a friend, call a friend, or you can wait till tomorrow, the next time I see you, to check your answers with me. When you finish those 5 problems, on the back side of the sheet is the independent practice. So on the back of the sheet where it says IP metric conversions, you're going to put a 12 in the upper right-hand corner. Follow all the directions and try this whole thing by yourself. And it's due in class, it's due at the beginning of class on Friday. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, but I would really need you to try to complete the whole sheet by the next time I see you.